It is time to stop doing American kettlebell swings because they are wasting your training life and there is simply no purpose for the exercise. Usually we try to give you a little bit of an understanding of why people do the exercise, but I cannot think of a rational reason to do a kettlebell swing and flip your hands all the way to the top, put yourself in a position that's going to risk shoulder injury and back injury. It's just not worth it, and there are better ways to create power, so let's go over it.
The American kettlebell swing is the epitome of doing too much for no real rational reason. I understand that you're trying to follow through the pattern of a normal conventional kettlebell swing, but the main thing that we see as an issue within that is it puts you into a poor position from a shoulder perspective without knowing if you have that range of motion. So the forceful movement of the kettlebell going to the completely vertical position is a difficult one for a lot of people if you haven't been training that mobility factor for a while. And what we're doing in this position was adding a ballistic component and having a heavy kettlebell swing you through a motion that you don't necessarily know if you own, which can create a lot of problems for somebody through the line of their training.
This is one of the underrated problems that I really don't like about the American kettlebell swing, is it's telling you that you have to raise the kettlebell to a certain point. You have to get it overhead. Now, fundamentally, with the kettlebell swing, I don't care how high the kettlebell goes. We're trying to create power with our hips. We're trying to drive into powerful extension. And in theory, that's going to drive the kettlebell upwards, but it doesn't really matter how high it goes. Now we've kind of taken the kettlebell swing and we've changed your focus to where you think you have to drive it overhead. Now, a couple of things happen when you do that. One, most people, if you can't get into this overhead position without keeping your abs tight, if you can't get into this overhead position comfortably and you're feeling pain in your shoulder already, then trying to get into that position just makes no sense.
It adds a lot of the opening of the rib cage. You'll see the front side. Most people that go overhead, you'll see them start to flare those ribs out, which puts a lot of extra emphasis on the lower back. And again, it's translating through the area that you may just not have.
The other big issue with it is what happens whenever we go overhead. It is most natural for me to go overhead and have my arms out. Then I can get into a nice position of external rotation. This is a nice, safe position. The American kettlebell swing, though, is trapping your hands on that kettlebell. And that means when you go up, you're in this awkward position that invites a lot of internal rotation, which is a shoulder mechanism for injury. It can't be as personal as it can be if you're, say, pressing dumbbells overhead or doing kettlebell snatches or exercises like that. So that's our second issue. It's that really closed hand position.
Which brings us to the last issue that we would have, which is mainly going through the pattern of that swing. What happens through a conventional kettlebell swing is you'll see you're going from 6 o'clock all the way out till 9 o'clock. And when you make that adjustment, going up above towards 12 changes how gravity affects the kettlebell. So once you go to completely vertical, it's like getting to the top of a roller coaster where you're about to make the descent. It stops, it pauses, and then you catch a lot of momentum on the way down, which you may not be prepared for unless you've trained for that specifically your entire life.
In theory, you have to build what's called eccentric strength, which is the ability to resist a weight downwards. And if you don't have sufficient eccentric strength, essentially you're hanging your joints out to dry, you're hanging your shoulders out to dry, and that's a huge problem. The other big thing I think with it, people are going heavy. If I'm picking up a big kettlebell and trying to American kettlebell swing that up, all that descent, say 50, 60, 70 pounds coming down, that's all a real mechanism for shoulder injury. It's all a ton of reasons that we want you to stay away from the American kettlebell swing, no matter what any coach or any CrossFit program tells you. The biggest reason to avoid the American kettlebell swing is because there are plenty of other alternatives that are going to let you develop that hip power a lot more safely. And to be honest, you'll be able to have a lot more fun and express a lot more explosion through the hips, which is the goal of the kettlebell swing. Our first alternative for you is something called the staggered stance kettlebell swing. If you were doing American kettlebell swings because you only have a light kettlebell and that kettlebell stopped challenging you, once you're in that staggered stance position, you're biased a little bit onto one leg, so it's a little bit of a unilateral move. So it's gonna be more effective with a light kettlebell. It's also a really good chance to explore core tightness, making sure that you're keeping everything forward even though you're in that staggered stance.
It allows us to get outside of our normal position of forward hips, forward hips, forward hips. And the more we can open up that transverse plane and that rotational capacity within our hips will allow us for better health overall. And you're gonna be adding in that horizontal power pattern that you were looking to get involved. When we look at troubleshooting the second aspect, we're gonna talk about going overhead with that American kettlebell swing. And the option that we would substitute that with would be a kettlebell snatch. What this does is it gives you the opportunity to work on the vertical power aspect, but you're doing it limb by limb in a controlled manner versus fixing the hands in that internal fashion like we were talking about with the American kettlebell swing.
Exactly, and you can also take the kettlebell snatch a little bit on a rep by rep basis. You can do the snatch lower to your shoulder and then go into a swing, so you're in a nice safe position as opposed to having all of that eccentric pressure as you lower down coming out of the kettlebell snatch. And the simplest way to solve the American kettlebell swing, and also the key reason that it's just not worth it, if you can go overhead, you might as well just pick up a much heavier kettlebell, push yourself a little bit and do that instead.
What's gonna really focus on is that horizontal power aspect, as if you were exploding the hips forward and getting the most out of what the swing is at the bottom portion. Within the American kettlebell swing, what we see is there's this space where your hips can kind of relax because you're totally vertical and the weight's not working on you. Where with a traditional conventional kettlebell swing, we're gonna see that you're going through that stretch shortening cycle back and forth, and you go from concentric to eccentric load way more rapidly, which will get you better results long term.
Also, the heart of the kettlebell swing period is to challenge yourself, be explosive, and lift something heavy. Why wouldn't you want to lift the heavier weight on the classic kettlebell swing instead of wasting your time going overhead with something lighter and inviting injury? So skip it, come at us.